titled Crew Training, Wellbeing and Competency. Let me introduce Mrs. Yanna Laskari, Crew Manager at TMF Drive Parkers. Welcome, Yanna.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to have you here. Next up, Mrs. Mary Alexopoulou, Human Resources Coordinator at Dynacom Tanker Management. Hi, Mary.
Hi, glad to be here.
Welcome. Mr. Christos Sialakoumas, Crew Director at Danaos Shipping. Hi, Christos.
Hello, thank you very much for the invitation. Nice to see you, everyone.
Welcome. And last but not least, Mr. Makram Daouk, Business Director at Crossworld Marine. Hi, Makram.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Nice to have you here. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's start. What initiatives or resources does your organization provide to promote the physical as well as the mental well-being of your crew members during their time at sea? Mary, would you like to start?
Yes, of course. Well, the well-being of our employees is of utmost importance to us. As a company, we strive to create a culture that promotes mental and physical well-being, and also promotes work-life balance, respect, and diversity. Actually, with regards to the benefits given on board, helping people to supporting their mental health and well-being, the internet access on board has been identified as the most important contributor to improving their happiness. However, mental health on board, physical health, their onboard relationships, and access to recreational facilities are also areas identified to where more things could be done.
What kind of recreational facilities do you provide?
There are gyms on board. There are spaces that they can have fun together.
Many things could be done there, but all companies are trying to improve these kind of things on board. Moreover, as a company, our well-being initiatives are, among others, birthday gifts for our seafarers, access to recreational facilities. We are creating spaces for them on board to have fun, to get together and everything. We are having one-team meetings on a regular basis with the vessels, with the fleet's vessels, so as to honestly discuss their working conditions on board and their crew concerns. Moreover, we are investing or their training courses prior joining the vessels and while on board related to their to the mental health well-being, stress management, and the recognitions on symptoms of depression. Actually, we are also trying to promote culture, just culture work environment, blame-free work environment. The basic element of this culture is that the people can have an honest relationship. Our shore-based managers, superintendents, the masters on board, all people, all senior officers on board are trying their best so as to maintain a high level of mental well-being and health on board.
So the basic principles of human resource management are applied to the crews, right?
Yes, moreover, we have a welfare coordinator on board. The basic duties of these people, among others, are to communicate regularly with the people on board regarding their life on board, moral concerns.
In the form of interviews?
No, it's like an informal discussion between seamen. And actually, we are trying to also train them to be able to seek, to recognize, to seek and report signs, so any signs of depression or mental health help need on board. Finally, we recently generated a Speak Out channel, communication channel, through which people can communicate directly with our top management.
Anonymously?
Yes, they can be anonymous. They can communicate with our top management without any involvement of ship's personnel or company's department. And this can also be considered as a help channel because they can also share their sentiments and any depressive or stressful situations that they might have experienced on board. Thank you.
Our company is committed to create and promote a working environment on board that supports mental health and well-being of our seafarers. By implementing our health and safety policy implementation, we ensure that our seafarers working on board, they have a safe and healthy working environment and access to medical care, which also applies to mental health. Also, by enhancing open communication that fosters a good working environment on board our vessels. Our anti-harassment and bullying policy, it's very important, our seamen on board, to be aware that harassment and bullying are not tolerated on board our vessels. By implementing our safety management system, we ensure that our seamen are working on a safe environment. By having routine inspections of the living condition of our seafarers on board. For example, to have their mess room and accommodation clean, tidy and safe. Risk assessment of stress implemented by seaboard management. Food and catering to ensure that the quality and the quantity of food are of high standards. The water supplies are always in regards to the number of seamen on board. Work adjustments and proper rest of our seamen, maintain a normal and consistent work schedule, social activities, encourage and facilitate crew participation in positive activities, sports, parties, hobbies, religious services, and also to organize regular events, help them bond each other and ease stress levels. Monitoring and counseling, create opportunities of counseling, particularly for those crew members that are their first time at sea, let's say, or they have a different nationality or religion for the rest of our seamen. Socialization to facilitate crew to maintain relationship and distance communication with their families, with their siblings, friends, using technologies like internet, satellite phones, and encourage them to take advantage of their shore leaves, always when the vessel is at port. Crew personal development to enhance opportunities of increased sense of accomplishment. For example, recognition of good performance of our seafarers on board. Things like this.
Thank you.
Main and
Thank you, Yanna. Excellent. Makram, what about your firm?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the answers. I think that pretty much covers it when it comes to what's going on board.
More questions for you if you like.
Do you? No, it's we will.
Do they share willingly sensitive information? The crew members, do they collaborate?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. And this is what I was going to say, that we essentially provide much more of a on-land or from the on-land perspective support. We try to stay near the seafarer throughout the journey from the beginning till the end. What does that mean? That means setting up a team that's responsible for that seafarer, someone that they see as family, someone that's close to them, someone that they know, that they can confide to, that they can open to and talk openly to. This means setting up a crew welfare department, which means that whenever they want to speak about something sensitive that they feel that they don't want to speak to their brothers and sisters, crew managers at the operations department, they talk to the crew welfare department. That means that we give them medical support when they need to give them medical support. When they have, for instance, a medical examination that's quite stressful, etc., we have a doctor that's on board that helps us sort of manage the whole situation with them and take them through it, and obviously make sure that they get on board eventually when they are safe and sound and on and on. We also make sure that their career on board, their career progression is going smoothly as well. So we work very closely with the management companies to make sure that seafarers are evaluated while they're on board, evaluated constantly and properly, so that they are then given the chance to grow in their career, because that also gives a sense of wellness. There was a mention before about some more difficult tasks, etc. In some situations, you also give psychometric testing before the seafarer gets on board. So not everyone is able to take any task at any point. So the whole idea is, when in the more tricky situations, you test the seafarer for the psychometric. Are they going to be able to cope with a situation like this or like that? And this way, whether this is the profile of the person that you would like to have on board that can cope or not, or someone who would eventually develop some sort of problem. Beyond that, I think my colleagues from the previous group as well have mentioned that there's a lot you can do to make sure that while the seafarers are on board, it's a stress-free environment. Not only with the bells and whistles and all the games on board, the karaoke, etc.
With what else?
But making sure that you know that your family is okay. And that means that you have the medical insurance, so making sure that your family, while you're on board, you don't have to think, is my family covered? What if something happens? Who's going to take care of them? You know that's taken care of. We also, much like Mr. Goudara said earlier, we also have Mrs. Mariner's Club. That means engaging the families of the seafarers, the wives and the children, in a community to be able to sort of help them cope with the fact that their husbands is not there. It's not only a monetary issue, it's an issue of emotions, right? You don't have your person there, you don't have your loved one there. And last but not least, for calamities, etc., but also the disfavored situations and people, we have the Crossworld Charity Foundation, which is very active in, I'm going to say it's not active in CSR in the sense of CSR, let's do something to be able to publish it online. It's much more active in the real CSR, is who amongst our community really has a problem and how can we assist them to be able to make sure that the community is okay.
Excellent, Makram. Thank you so much. Christos, what about Danaos? Do you ever blend socially crew members with the personnel on shore?
Of course, yeah. So
How?
Let me start. Let me start with to originally reply the original question. Sorry, to reply the original question, and then I will move forward to the second part. So everybody here, things have changed. You know that? Are you aware of that? We had the COVID. We managed. Shipping continued. We had people on mental health breakdowns on board the vessels. They were stand alone there. They were alone. They were ill. They were sick. They were injured. They died, and they were not allowed to go on shore. So people got affected. The seafarers on board are suffering. They were suffering mentally a lot. They were suffering because of the situation that they were isolated from the rest of the world. Even the fact that they kept the world running, they kept the world trade running. We were supplied with our facial masks from China with no problem, but the seafarer was not allowed to depart, to disembark in the port of Piraeus, in the port of Amsterdam, in Singapore or anywhere. So after that, two major countries supplying seafarers around the globe, Ukraine and Russia, they got in a war. Just right after the COVID series has completed. So we have mental health issues on board. The shipping industry is focusing on that, and focusing on dealing. We have heard already from my good colleagues many different ways to deal with that. What we try to do in Danaos is that we try to enhance our communication with the vessels. The connection, exactly as you said, Kelly, the connection between the shore side and the vessel side. Because people still think that they are isolated on board. So what I would suggest, what I would give as a an additional measure to what has already been said, in order not to repeat myself, is try to get in close contact with your vessels. Rebuild the link between the shore office, stop taking sides, they are on board, we are on shore, we know better, he doesn't know anything, and reconnect. Whatever way you want. You have Starlink and you want to make, Teams calls, do that. You want to make phone calls, you do that. You do conferences, you do that. Somehow, we need to reconnect with our seafarers. We need to show the appreciation, because in the same time, despite the difficulties that I already described, now we have with new technologies to deal. We have decarbonization, we have new engines, new equipment on board, new this is whatever, you name it. It's there. New vessels, dual fuel. Who's going to run that? So let's reconnect. Let's try to find ways to reconnect. Thank you.
Excellent, Christos. Now, your colleagues in the previous panel said that crew members need room for development. What kind of opportunities exist in your organization for supporting continuous learning and development of crew members? Makram.
Thank you. I think it's a great pass from what Christos was saying before. Actually, times have changed, and the seafarer's role has changed. You go from being a normal master to now becoming a master, a team leader, a bureaucrat, an accountant, a psychologist, a psychologist, etc., etc. So actually, times have changed, and what's required of you as a seafarer is much more elaborate nowadays. So for obvious reasons, training is required at all times. At all times. That's one thing.
But training refers to the present task, your present position.
In general, there's
And
training.
What
There's
about
training for
development?
There's training for your current position, because you're always having to develop to new requirements. I'll give you an example. Every time a ride ship questionnaire gets updated, etc., you have new requirements you need to be sort of trained towards to be able to cope, to have your vessel pass that ride ship inspection. So even in your current position, you have to constantly be trained to be able to pass a number of these tasks. But also in terms of development, you have to constantly be trained as well. I'd like to go back maybe into the question of consistency, especially, we're in Greece. Greece is like 20% of global shipping, etc., etc. The biggest companies end up having very active programs in training. But most companies, and when we say most companies, most vessels out there, do not have any program for training. They do not have anything. They end up just requiring the crew to come on board, perform.
Certificates.
Perform. I think Christos said also to make sure that you stay near the seafarer. In these cases, is bring the seafarer, let him perform. He doesn't perform, get rid of him, change him, literally. There's no closeness. There's none of that. So the problem is, before we talk about sort of training and development, we need to make sure that consistently across the board, everyone's on board with the fact that you need to have some sort of a training and development of your seafarers. There was also a question before about the numbers of seafarers and the supply of seafarers. The numbers are quite poor. You cannot just come and pick from the market. There are no numbers in the market. There are no seafarers in the market. So you have to develop the ones that you have. I know I've taken the time, so yeah.
Actually, I think that one of our best options to proceed with maintaining to create our seamen commitment with the company and train them well so as to exclude major non-conformities on board and ashore is to train them. Our biggest investment should be training. In our company, they are, of course, certified in training in accordance to STW standards, but actually we are well above that. We have an active training program which exceeds the minimum requirements of STW. It is directly linked to their evaluation system. We keep records and statistics per seafarer according to what we get from on board and ashore. We want to develop people from within our resources and actually everyone. They get to be evaluated from on board. Masters and chief engineers are addressed without responsibility. Our superintendents, our shore-based managers. They get to be evaluated, but they evaluate back our training centers. We will discuss about these things later on. However, we are trying to define training needs as well through on-the-job observations, our safety, security drills on board, appraisal forms, their personal training records. We keep records everywhere about everyone, and we are trying to keep up with the industry. We try to see and understand our vessels' performance trends. There are many, many things. We are trying to enrich our training programs. We recently added the company-specific videos, which are actually videos record our seamen demonstrating how to do things properly, like wearing their firefighting gear. And we saw that this helped people to understand the subject better, and they get to feel that they are doing things together as a team. Besides that, yes, they feel included, and it has to do with everything we are discussing here today. It has to do with their mental health and well-being. Yes, exactly. It's a series of things on board and ashore. And we are also organizing shore-based safety forums for our senior and junior officers and for our ratings, and we keep monitoring their seminar attendance to make sure that we widen the participation.
Thank you, Yanni.
Are your training programs
Effective? Do they provide the necessary knowledge and
Is training enough?
skills?
Is training enough? You tell me you're the professor in the university. But anyway, no, training is not enough, okay? As said, as you know, most of you, things are different now since yesterday. It's again, I will repeat myself, but unfortunately the same root cause for me, okay? There are new vessels, new equipment, people need to get trained. We need to find ways though to motivate people to attend training, to endorse, to embrace. Usually the seafarers on board, they have a chaotic work rest hours. Usually it's not followed, not even the SCCW necessary rules and regulations on that. But on the other hand, we still need to put people in engagement of training. So my proposal and what we are trying to introduce in Danaos seafarers is to have them trained as much as we can while ashore on their holidays. So that requires serious effort, serious motivation, technological tools that can provide this remote training. They don't need to attend a classroom every day. So this is our road for the future.
Yanna, training is expensive.
It depends. It depends on what you want to have at the end. It depends always on the results. If you want to have a safe vessel with trained crew, training can never be expensive. Money is not what counts and matters in our case. Trained seaman means a safe vessel. Plus to the fact that when you recognized that in order to develop a competent seafarer, you have to do it from within your company's resources, meaning that to take your seamen and train them to reach them up to a certain point, this is the safest way. Of course, many vessels you have to bring fresh blood in the company, but to start with, you have to invest to your own resources, your own seamen. But by training,
You're
and
talking about retention.
I'm talking about, yes, to start train and make your competent seafarers from within your resources, from within your pool.
Having low turnover in terms of
Of course, but it's better to have a seaman who is working in your company 3-4 years from a rating to a junior officer and train and make his additional training, initial, refreshing, on-board training, enhance and coaching him to reach the senior rank is much better, and you can count on him much more than bring somebody new to the company, make the normal training, his additional training to your company's SMS and stuff like this, and have him on board. You have to invest to your own pool first, and then start train the newcomers as well. Training is never enough, as Christos said. All the companies, all the shipping companies, they are investing more and more on this, and they will more in the future. Because, as I said, the more trained seamen we have, the safest vessels on seas.
Christos, which nationality is more resistant to training?
I don't think that this is a nationality trend. I think that it has to do with the way that you try to compensate the people. And I'm not referring only to the actual, money compensation, but how you give them the opportunities for promotions, you give them a brighter future, you explain to them what is the reason behind the training. Because just announcing a training, just putting a person in the classroom to attend for 5 hours, 5 days per week or whatever, without knowing the reason, without knowing how this will be utilized on board, this doesn't have the effect that you are willing and you are actually investing, because training in general it costs. First way from the training material itself and the students, etc., and the second that it costs time of the onshore vacation of a seafarer and efforts, of course. So it has to do with the goal of the company. Yanna, and I think that the rest of the colleagues they have said a very well point, very well said, that you need to create your own pool and to try to develop within. Because seafarer is not an alien, he's a human being like us. So on the same way that we perform, we have high performance and sometimes in our professional life, same applies with seafarers as well. So they have the cycles, the economical cycles. So, we need to invest in our people, and we need to keep putting trust on them and training additional to the maximum effort that we can in order to develop to the way that we like them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I really enjoyed our discussion. Thank you so much for your